Hi, and welcome to Ward 13. I had to take off my tie because, you see
Thank
Ross?
you.
I got Ross Terrio, and Jim O'Connell's here briefly.
Hi, John. How are you doing?
He needed
Hi,
a
Ross.
liberal
How are you?
Cade Milfalta.
Cade Milfalta to you too.
Faltero at Erin
Faltero.
Gilbride. It's about the extent
all
of
you
my
have?
Gaelic. Oh,
Yeah.
and Pogue Mahone.
Pogmo. Well, that's a little impolite. Actually,
Well-
I was talking to the.
Jim, this is my show.
Well, I want to make a note.
We're taking over a democracy.
Yeah.
Over,
No, it isn't a
two over what
democracy.
is.
I don't believe
the
in
ancient.
democracy.
My brothers at the Ancient Order of Hibernians are meeting tomorrow night. The monthly meeting is on.
With Danny O'Neill. He's a Hibernian.
He is a Hibernian.
Well, let you talk while I
So-
go get my red necktie.
Yeah, go get your red necktie.
So, and actually, I was talking to the to Mike Farley, the president of the AOH, a couple of weeks ago. So I said to him at the meeting, wouldn't it be nice to sing the Irish national anthem in Gaelic, right, like the way it's normally sung? So he said, I'd love that. So I said, okay, so I will sing the Irish national anthem in Gaelic on Wednesday night. So tomorrow night. Not that anybody should be coming there for this reason.
Yeah.
My intention is, although I now find I have to scurry back from Dover, try and get back for 7 o'clock. I might be 10 minutes late, but I will at some point sing the Irish national anthem.
Excellent.
Are you
So,
claiming
Our on the
autograph-
V.
so you'll be coming back from the White Cliffs of Dover.
Not those white cliffs.
Oh,
No,
okay.
no. The White Cliffs of Dover. No, I'm coming back from Dover. I have to go to Dover. I'm coming back from Dover tomorrow, and I'm estimating to get to Manchester around 10 after 7. I don't want to get a speeding ticket,
I wouldn't worry about it.
I will be going. I'll be going pretty rapidly within the law, trying to get home on time on 101 tomorrow.
Question
Within
for you,
the law.
A little bit of
That's
Irish
the thing.
trivia.
Yes.
Question. I know the French have cars, the Italians have cars, Germans obviously have cars, the English have cars, the Irish have a car. Is there
A manufacturing car, you mean?
Yeah,
or-
do they have
They had
an
DeLorean.
native to Ireland, a car manufacturing?
No, the last car manufacturing plant in Ireland was Ford Motor Company, which had a manufacturing plant in Cork City, which
They
closed
did?
down. Yeah, which closed in about 30 years ago. It closed at the end of the Ireland's flirtation with industrialization.
Capitalism.
You made all those
No, not
awful
capitalism.
English Fords.
Yeah.
They were
Now,
So,
Johnson's motor car, who made that one?
John from the song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Johnson's motor
I think
car.
Johnson was just the guy who owned the car. I don't
Yeah,
think
but
he
I'm
actually-
just wondering what the manufacturer of the car was.
I had
'cause
no idea.
Those
No idea.
those
No.
rebels stole it.
So yeah, I have no idea.
He
So
got his car back when Ireland got its
there was
freedom.
there was a joke about the Ford Motor Company when the Ford factory was closing in Cork
I'll
City.
be right back, guys.
They were saying the joke used to be that the guys were like pilfering spare parts, right? Because
Yeah.
the plant, once you announce the closure, you know, you're leaving, and they're leaving the country. It's not that you could work for Ford down the street or something. So Ford announced it was leaving, but there was a joke, and it was that that the guys walking out of work, like out the factory gates, sort of thing, that if you'd pushed any of them hard in the back, they would have started up on the way down the driveway. They had so many spare parts on them. But yeah, Ford left Cork, and Dunlop left. Dunlop Tires was there, and these were all a product. There's a lesson here about subsidizing industries and people staying just for tax holidays.
Although I read about 10 years
All
ago
right,
that Ireland
all
was
right,
doing
enough.
great. Great
It's
economy.
it is doing great.
Okay,
Yeah.
enough.
Service-based finance.
Yes.
Ross, you're not going to ever come back.
Oh, I'll come
Behave
back.
yourself.
I'll come back violently and aggressively.
Well, then we'll have to have you arrested.
Well,
Citizen's arrest. Jim will make a flying block on you.
Yeah,
Well, did you play rugby?
I did, but I
You
was
have the
never.
build
I,
for
yeah,
it,
yeah.
but
I
you
a
have
low,
ears.
I had a low center of gravity. Yeah, so it was one of those games I could actually play. I tried playing some other games, and I was always height challenged. You know, the 6-footers would just bounce the ball over my head, and that
what
was
about
it.
bowling? What do you guys? Your Irish are big into bowling.
Okay,
right?
enough.
Yes, they are.
enough.
And street bowling with a steel ball. I don't know if you've ever seen that. It's only
Yes,
in
I've
Cork
seen it
and
in
County
England.
Down. Yeah.
And if you remember,
It's done on the roads, on the public roads.
Well, I'm thinking of Whiskey in the Jar, where he talks about some people. take
here,
a
Jim,
lot-
can you catch?
I can.
Don't let the Republican catch it.
What is it?
It's a Senator
that?
Lou D'Alessandro challenge coin.
What's he challenging you to? A fight?
He is a supporter of Bill Gardner
As am I.
going on.
You
as
are?
Secretary
I
of
love
State.
Bill Gardner.
You do?
He's
Well,
a
he's been
personal hero of
around. He's
mine.
been around a long time.
He's very. He has partisan support. Democrats and Republicans like the guy.
It's funny that when
That would be
Carl-
nonpartisan support, right?
Well,
Well,
Jim,
yes, I'm sorry, you're right.
Jim.
Bipartisan.
Bipartisan, that's the right word.
Jim, since you don't know American history as well as I do with the
I
New
don't.
Hampshire primary, which I've written about extensively and writing a book
I'm
about.
sure you do. Yeah.
You, that,
You're very
I didn't
modest.
give that to you, but
John,
I'll just
you're a
give it
very
to
modest
you.
person, and you have a lot to be
You're
modest
not-
about.
I have a huge ego, that's true.
Yeah.
Huge.
You want your.
I don't think I can catch with this. Oh, geez, I did.
You did. You did.
You can
So,
play around with it.
Colin
But
Van Osten.
Colin Van, let me
Yeah.
come on. Colin Van Osten. First of all, he admittedly has never worked a poll. He's never testified about any electoral law. And when he was running in 2016, somehow Bill Gardner and all of this eluded him.
Question.
And he's raised over $250,000. I was going through all this stuff before I got worn out today. At let's say only 30 grand. I was tweeting it. Only $30,000 of it comes from out of state. Some of it from Bayer. Some of it from
That's weird.
Let's be frank. This is a guy that in 2016 went to New Hampshire Rebellion, who are supposedly holding the mantle of Granny D. This is all black money. This is black money. This is not what being a Democrat's about, particularly for my generation, came of age during the Watergate. When the bunny was brought in a black bag.
Let me tell you something. So I find myself in strange territory here.
Right,
because
because
usually
you were going to
support Van
defend.
Osten?
You were going to defend.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's not something I've paid a lot of attention to.
So
but
you-
Irish first name. That's
Why
what
would
it
you-
is.
the
guys
Van
are
Osten, the
clannish.
Van Ostrens,
So you're going
right
to
next to
defend,
the Murphys.
But you're going to defend black money.
No, I'm
because
not.
That's exactly
no, I'm not. But
what
it is. Because I don't know what it is.
Okay, Jim, I've got the book of laws. Show
let-
me where finance laws cover Secretary of State, because they don't.
They don't. Okay, so can I first of all, I'm coming
You
at
already
this.
talked about Ford.
I'm coming at
Ford.
this.
He used up his quota.
Yeah.
I'm coming at this from a low knowledge perspective, so I'm going to start to fit in with people in New Hampshire now because
you
there's a
just-
lot of people who
oh.
talk about through their
You sound like Kristen
posteriors.
Sinema out in Arizona
So,
insulting
but-
the electorate.
But and
Still
I,
got elected.
Because
There you go.
anything goes, right?
So no. My point is, I really don't know the details of this race or anything. I just happen to know that
none of us
Van
stopped any
Osten is
three
running
of us
against
from opining about anything.
is running against Mr. Gardner. Now, the money issue, it doesn't surprise me if Colin Van Osten's got money because
Why doesn't it surprise
because-
you
because
when
he's-
under the law, the Secretary of State is supposed to be neutral, and the law, you realize it wasn't until the early 70s when you're fighting over the primary, because it wasn't, in 1968, the majority of delegates were picked by a party. They would be what we call superdelegates. And then you had the reforms of 68 and then 72. So when you had people jockeying for position, to take the primacy of the primary way. Because in 68, New Hampshire knocked out LBJ, and the next year they knocked out the VP candidate of 68, who was Edmund Muskie. And people were saying, like big states, why does this little state have so much power?
Right.
So they passed it to keep that franchise, and that's exactly what it is. They passed a law about neutrality, and they picked the Secretary of State's office to be the repository of taking care of the primary. Now, Jim, both political parties aren't in our Constitution, are they?
No.
Because our founding fathers didn't believe in political parties. You can go see Hamilton, I guess, or whatever. The fascists. That's
I
the
Weren't
darling,
a lot
the
of them
darling
Whigs?
of
Weren't they Whigs
liberals
back
and
then?
stuff. No, they were Federalists. There were no parties. You were all supposed to be on the same page of music. So a political party is a private institution.
Right.
So it's happened before where outside of Iowa and New Hampshire, Iowa only came about around in 1980, by the way. The caucus, because the Alaska caucus actually is first, but the media, will make this. And so it's supposed to be neutral, right? When parties like Florida, states like Florida are trying to jockey, RNC will step in. Well, we're going to take away the voting rights of the delegates.
Right.
So the GOP is not end the primary just by pulling out like that.
Yeah.
Well, I wish the national GOP would tell them that Van Osten supporters.
But nobody's saying anything about anything.
But wait,
They're
I'm not
talking about
following.
the
I'm not
laws
following.
or
I
anything.
Well, I got a question for you about Van Osten. How does he support himself? About 39 years old. What has he done in his life to support himself? He just seems to be
He might be one of, like Jim, one of those sex
trust
pots.
fund. Trust fund, baby.
A sex
Jim the
pot that
trust
just
fund,
drops
baby.
into us from Ireland.
He's
and,
he's Mr. Stonyfield Yogurt.
Yes, but it's more interesting when you
wasn't-
talk about
well,
somebody just drop in naked
wasn't
and
that
24 hours they're in
wasn't he
a
given that
fully
job?
clothed in a Rolls Royce.
No, my first of all, I heard what you said about then that we could have wonderful conversations about the first in the nation primary and all that
You're
stuff.
talking about
But-
Ford.
No, but
made me
I just
angry
want to
'cause
tie
I'm a
it in.
JM family.
I'm trying to tie it in with the Van Oster Gardner race. Like, what's any of that got to do with Van Oster Gardner race? So can we?
Because
like,
this is unprecedented, Jim.
what's unprecedented? That somebody would raise money to run for
Yes.
Secretary of State. Okay.
For
all right.
but for a office by law that's neutral.
Okay.
Come on, this is Ray Buckley's going to turn the Secretary of State's office into the New Hampshire Democratic Party
Really?
branch.
Yes. Actually,
Exactly
a broken clock
right.
is right twice a day. Let me say something to you about. It was before 2016. It was when the Republicans did well, and I understand why. The National Democrats said, you know what? It was I
No,
think
they,
it was in
they haven't had
Florida.
National Democrats since about 1828.
No,
That was John Quincy
The National
Adams.
Democratic Party. When they were upset about some of the Secretary of States who were Republican, like in Florida with the hanging chads,
Yeah.
and they said, look, the only way we'll get fair elections is if we have Democratic state secretaries of state. And so who's the big guy out in the Midwest who's running for president? He always goes to forget his name.
Oh, that was William Jennings Bryan,
No,
three-time
recently.
nominee.
No, recently.
Cross the Gold speech. Free silver.
Secretary
Anyway,
of State.
so there's a movement nationally among Democrats that they feel that in the states where the Secretary of State is Republican, that there's
Most,
voter suppression.
I think they're elected.
Obviously,
It's elected office in most states.
yes. So what they're
And
doing is they're trying to get the Democrats into the Secretary
The
of State
thing Van
position.
Austin do, who
But they don't feel that Bill
Was-
Gardner, who's a Democrat, is partisan enough for their liking.
But see, I don't see. There's
It's
no.
not
There's
really
no. I don't
that.
know any evidence.
It's not
that.
really that.
I think there's a whole other.
this is a power play.
Okay, maybe, and then
It's
maybe
not
I'll
maybe.
learn.
It's not maybe, Jim.
Well,
I
I'm
don't
not
like fence
I'm not
sitters.
convinced yet, but
Yeah.
maybe I'll learn that here tonight or elsewhere. I'm saying it to me. It makes perfect sense to look at the Bill Gardner
Yeah, that terrible
legacy.
fascist. He went to a 9/12 thing, the Glenn Beck,
And-
and one of the guys actually
Who
was
went?
out in Oregon, Bundy. That must mean he's a fascist. Isn't that classic McCarthyism, Jim?
Well, you lost me.
See, nobody's actually even following this race.
So yes, so
it's like inside
let me
baseball.
give you a non-conspiratorial view.
Sure.
Whoa,
yeah,
I
yeah,
gotta
yeah,
get
yeah.
an opinion from. Who are your supporter, biggest
Give
supporter
me a
of?
break,
Eamon de
Jim.
Valera or Michael Conlon? Conley.
It's De Valera and Collins.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
can pronounce all those Irish
Yeah,
names,
so
right?
so
Which one did you
well,
say?
Collins
Ask
is
about,
Collins is easier.
Cahalan.
So no, Collins, Michael
You like
Collins.
Collins?
Yes, yes.
And I agree with you because he's a braver man because
Oh,
Collins
yeah,
knew
sure he
that
was.
making a peace deal was going to be very unpopular.
Yes.
It got him killed. Whereas
Yes.
de Valera,
Pregnant.
De
De Valera.
So here you
said,
got
"Oh no, I don't want a peace deal,"
Yeah.
because he
two
knew
right
that-
wingers, buddy.
Yeah. So
break.
one is populist and one is, but you know,
One,
One
is an
sold
opportunity,
out.
Right, yes.
and that's like Bill Gardner. Bill Gardner is a noble human being, nonpartisan. Colin
You
Van
don't even know what
Osten
you're
is an
talking about. You
opportunist.
saw a movie with what's his name, the Irish actor in it,
Liam Neeson.
that played that was so good in.
He was in Schindler's List.
Yeah, he was excellent in that.
Yeah, he was
They were
awesome.
originally going to have somebody else, but that's neither here nor
He went
there.
Okay,
But
so
we're finally seeing that
we're
what-
covering a lot of ground. I
Well,
feel like whack-a-mole. I'm trying to
yeah.
hit like there's
Well,
people
well,
popping.
yeah, we wanna
there's
make your
subjects
head
popping
spin.
up and all.
Yeah, it's really a conspiracy for me to be with Joel Elber at a ward with the firemen union that have endorsed him. And the alderman who is friends, who get the word from the Buckley and the crew, you can't go there to support him. So, because there is no such thing as cause and effect or everything. Oh, it must be a conspiracy, right?
Yeah,
So you think
Sure.
Buckley supports Van Osten?
Of course he does.
I'm sure he does, right?
Yeah, but you know what Kremlin
of course, we don't know because there are a lot of,
We don't
Governor
know.
John Lynch supports Bill Gardner, and
you
Lou,
think-
Lou D'Alessandro supports.
Do you think
Bill Gardner.
and Lou D'Alessandro can't piss off Ray Buckley? But do you actually
Well,
think?
he is right. If you what you're saying is true.
But do you actually think that the young Democrats aren't controlled?
They're
by
all for Van
Buckley?
Osten.
Come on.
I don't believe that for
a
a minute. No, I don't. There's any.
Then you're
evidence of
actually
that.
lying to yourself, and you're lying to people to say that it
Why?
is controlled.
Well, he's not
This
lying.
Yes,
I think
he is.
believes
He's
what
lying
saying.
about
I
this.
believe that Jim
A
O'Connell
bag-
believes what he's saying.
Absolutely.
doesn't.
Thank
Might
you.
not be
Thank you.
correct.
No,
Thank
you
you.
don't.
I have
You don't believe
I have
that.
I have
do.
a question
You
for
believe
Jim.
oh,
Another question.
because you're wrong.
I could be wrong. It wouldn't be the first time, John. I've been wrong before.
You're not that you could be wrong. You are wrong.
Like I said, it's always possible. At least I'm willing to admit the possibility that I'm wrong. I learn new things all the time. I tell people.
Run for office, Jim, and see what goes on.
Listen, I believe. I start off with generally speaking in life. I start off with is there an explanation that is logical, that is not.
Occam's razor. That's I live my life by.
Right.
Sure you do. You wouldn't be a Republican if you did.
I live by Occam's razor. Google it. Google it.
I know what Occam's razor. When you were just this high.
I wrote the book on Occam's razor.
You did? Can I have a copy?
Cutting edge. It was cutting edge. But
he's the one. What is it? I can't pronounce it because of dyslexia. The sword, the
the sword of Damocles.
Yeah,
the sword of
that's what's hanging over your head.
Yeah, whatever.
Now we're getting into a Gordian knot. So let's not.
I like how the Gordian
knot. Hey, I got a question for you.
Was it Alexander the Great to solve that?
Alexander the Great.
Was it he the one who solved the Gordian knot problem?
I don't recall.
Isn't that interesting?
Can we get back to Van Ostrand for a minute?
The Gordian knot
problem. Here's the thing: is you don't believe in campaign finance reform, do you, Jim?
Nope.
Because here you are. There's $250,000.
Oh no! I think there's a huge problem with money in American politics.
Wait.
With dark money, I think that
white money,
whatever you can call it, any color you want. But first of all, I think there's a problem per se with money speaking louder than people do in American politics often, and I think the non-traceability of money, the fact that there is money at play in the United States elections that we don't know the source of, I think is a problem. I understand the First Amendment issue with freedom of speech and money being freedom of speech and all that, but at least I understand it. But I that still the First Amendment shouldn't preclude the idea of the voters, the people, the public knowing what the source of funds are that are affecting elections, right? That doesn't conflict with the idea of freedom of speech.
That's a legal fiction that was created by John Roberts.
So I want to go back to this race that purportedly we were going to speak about, and so this was this. When I look at the Van Ostrand, I look at Bill Gardner.
You mean Colin Van Ostrand, who ran against Sununu, but wouldn't run against the popular governor. So what am I going to do next, right?
Perhaps. I'm not inside his head. I have no idea. All I know is he is a young man in the state of New Hampshire.
Interested in voter fraud, right?
Because
and when I give you the email, like I've given you emails before, where I tell him about voter fraud, and I know another thing, he doesn't care about that.
Oh, I don't know that. I've heard him speak, and he's talked about what his concerns are.
Speaking,
I've heard him speak on this topic just the one time. But I happened to be where he was, and he was speaking. He talked on the reasons why he was running, and one of the things was that Bill Gardner had been, he paid some homage to the man, mildly, but said he'd been around a long time, that, he recognized the bipartisan nature of what he had been, and he was an institution in New Hampshire politics, but he also said there's a time for change. Now, I didn't pay enough attention to remember all the
there's a change for
and he talked about the modernization of the office, he talked about systems, etc., in place. He talked about accountability on behalf of Gardner. He mentioned, for instance, the issues of the snow days and the unwillingness of the Gardner administration or the Gardner Secretary of State to allow towns to change their voting day.
And does he have the ability to force people? So he has the ability because he's being attacked. He lost voting cases. The Attorney General handles voting cases, not the Secretary
I'm just saying,
he doesn't know that.
And he's a fascist, too.
Well, perhaps he doesn't. But the point...
No, Bill Gardner's a fascist.
No, Bill Gardner's a wonderful human being.
He went to the 9/12.
So does this... But are there people then... Are there people sacrosanct? Are there people, that are untouchables? Because I start off with saying I don't really know. I couldn't give you the biography of Mr. Gardner. I know that...
And why can't you?
I trust people... Because I just don't. It's not something I'm that interested in. But I look at someone like John Lynch or Lou D'Alessandro and my Republican friends. But anybody who's got bipartisan support and who's been there for a long time and has spoken well of for a long time, obviously this is a commendable person. Yes. I see no conflict with that.
And there was no problems
Mr. Van
in
Ostrand,
2016.
I see no.
But there was when
I see no conflict between recognizing that and recognizing the fact that Colin Van Osten is a serious person with serious ideas.
No,
who is
he's
saying,
not,
Who is
Jim.
saying that
He's
there's...
a yogurt monger.
He's a hustler.
How can you take a yogurt monger seriously?
That's not the point, but it's a hustler.
Wait, whoa, and let me get you guys' opinion on
You know,
this.
it's like Elizabeth Ropp said. Was it Colin Van Spader?
Yeah,
She reminds me
well,
of
Colin
Spader.
Van Osten.
You know, the guy
But,
who always plays con then. So con
But this
then
is
is-
just
So,
like...
but hold on.
None of this is substantial and
So what do
based
you
on
think about his
anything.
How is it
campaign
not
promise that
substantial,
if he is
So raising $250,000 and threatening our primary, but with his partnership, that's not substantial. Did you
yeah,
ever?
Jim's
you
a
ever bother to
carpetbagger. He
debate?
doesn't care about
How,
the
how
primary.
is he, how is he,
He doesn't care about
how
the
is he
primary.
threatening the primary?
By his
Jesus
partisanship.
Christ. What did I just tell you? I just see you've already
No, I'm asking you,
This is
how
this
is
is
he-
what's called this is the conformism.
Yeah.
Oh,
He's a follower.
The last thing I am is a follower and a conformist.
Bah,
I've
bah,
got,
true,
I've got
Jim.
battle scars to
What do
prove
you
it.
think? What do you think of Van
But it's a conformism. That's how
Osten's
the
campaign
psychology of
promise
people.
that I won't run for anything else until 2020?
Well, because he doesn't get a shot at the
Th-
Senate.
well,
That's for Gene Shaheen to decide.
This is his stepping stone for other things. Maybe CEO of Stonyfield.
How would that make sense?
I don't know.
So I just...
Why don't you just
I'm
address
saying,
the issue of
I'm
money?
saying, no, I'm saying...
Injecting $250,000.
No,
Okay,
deep
all right,
down
Jim.
inside, in places
Jim,
you don't
I'm
like
at-
to talk about at parties.
No, we're not taking Phil.
don't know the
Sorry, Phil. I know who you are, and
The po-
you're
the
not gonna
point-
help with your
Is it
BS.
Phil?
The
my
point
friend?
Phil
is...
Griazzo? No, it's
Oh.
Phil
I'm totally...
I
Look, my
need
point
Jim's
is...
opinion
My
on
point...
something.
Fine, but before we do that, my point
he
is...
was only here to fill in. That's when
sitting
you
here,
got here.
if the
Well-
two of you were to come up with whatever thing, I would call it preposterous, whatever thing you say right now, because none of this makes sense to me yet, what you've said.
Nothing makes sense.
No,
Okay,
I'm just saying, but if you-
because the office is not supposed to be
That's a
neutral.
perfect segue.
The law doesn't. The
I have a
law
question.
So
doesn't
you
supposed to be
could say,
neutral.
you could say he's doing it
The
because
law is
he-
not supposed to be neutral.
You-
Here's a guy.
Right.
Democrats. I went to one of his.
I think
things
it's
in
part of a
Bedford.
plan to secede from the union and join Canada. Is that what he's
Why
at?
don't you stop? Why
Is
don't you
that true?
stop with that garbage type of talk? Because I was at one of his things.
Everything
Jim.
I've heard so far doesn't make sense.
Get out of here! You're
What?
an ass.
What?
No, you really are. You're Mr. Smug. I know it all. Oh,
I'm not
Mr.
smug,
Little
and I don't
Democrat.
know it all.
I'm with the little
And I'm not Mr.
waddling
Democrat.
ducks.
So you said
I'm
three
with the
things.
little
You
well,
said
this
three
isn't a
things in a
duck.
row that are inaccurate. And I certainly not know it all because I said it.
Read
the
the
outset, I
law,
don't know.
Jim.
I don't. Not question.
Find me
which
Secretary
law?
of State.
Which law? Which law?
Find me the Secretary of
Yeah.
State.
And what is it? And about
Ooh,
what?
what does the law mean?
No, I didn't say
I just read a 43-page article.
Right.
Oh,
Here
yeah,
you
that's
go.
that's
Here's the law.
nothing.
Okay.
About from the New Hampshire.
Death of a voter.
You know, I'm tired of New Hampshire. You don't have this crap in other places.
You don't?
No,
been to
you
Chicago?
don't.
You been to Chicago?
You know, Jim, I have been to Chicago.
So,
I have lived in New York. I
yeah.
just don't have to live this
To live
smug
with
stuff.
He's an international man of mystery.
Oh, Jesus, I'm just an American that moved around a lot. And I'm not a guy that goes and says that I can get that in Manchester you can get a world-class education in a place
That's
that you
true.
can't. No, you can't get a world-class
Yes, you
education in
can.
Manchester. Oh, yeah, I can't get languages for my kid. I get a world-class
Yeah, you
education.
can get a world-class education, but
No, you can't,
but-
Jim.
My daughter's fluent in
No, you
Spanish.
can't.
in your parents' house you can.
That's right.
Yeah.
You have world-class
That
teachers.
was a low blow.
Well, no, I
No,
wasn't
he's right
was I
about
referring
that.
to anybody in particular?
He's right
He's
about
referring
that.
to me.
No,
I
he's
don't
right
think so.
about that.
No, I'm saying that.
Joe,
I'm saying that.
there are world-class teachers in Manchester.
I've heard you say this, and I agree because I'm agreeing with you. You can get a
No,
world-class
you
education
can't
in
get a
Manchester.
world-class education
But I can tell you this:
from
that
the
if you
Manchester
walk
school system,
into
but
a
from the
first grade
teachers.
class in Manchester and you look at the kids' faces, right,
It's
or they're
just
not their, but their
sophistry.
names and who they are, right, who they are, what their socioeconomic background is, and you can predict the outcome. This is the most damning thing you could say about all
can
the
do
fine
that
people
practically
who work in
anywhere,
our school
Jim.
district. And I know there are fine people working there, and they're
Jim,
working
yeah,
hard
so your
to
son-
mitigate the problem. Let me
Your
just
son
finish.
couldn't get
to mitigate
languages.
the problems.
So how is it a
agree.
world-class
I-
My
school
daughter
system?
got languages.
that's-
My daughter had 7 years of Spanish.
But that's not the point he's making because he couldn't because I have that personal experience of not getting
That's
languages, so I know.
babbitry. That's
No, it's not.
babbitry. Yes, it is. It's boosterism.
So the point is, we know the saddest news about the city of Manchester's public education system is that we can predict how successful the students will be as they come out of the school system based on their family life, their socioeconomic
And that can't happen
status,
everywhere else.
where they
Come on.
live.
But that is.
Let's
that's-
go
that
to
is
Manchester.
nationwide. We
Yes,
know
it
that
is.
kids
Yes,
are
it is.
successful.
Let's go to
Or
Manchester.
Kids that struggle typically from a one-parent family with less than a high school education that are living in poverty. If they come from that background, the overwhelming majority of the time, they're going to struggle in school and not have a good outcome.
Well,
You ought to go on.
you're
You ought to go on his show. The idea is, if you say you get a world-class education, it's a world-class
who have higher
system.
education,
So-
then the kids are probably
and
gonna be
so
successful.
if we take those numbers, and I don't agree fully with what you said, but I understand, but I do agree that
Well,
there's
well supported by research.
yes, but I just don't like singling
You
out
can't-
those particular
you can't
things
handle the
because
truth,
because
which is-
No, you can't have a world-class, what you're talking about, with the funding levels of this school system, and everybody knows
There's
that.
if
And
you
to
take
pretend
a-
that it's not,
If
and
you
then to be
take
involved
a
in the
high-level
branding.
class
No,
in
no.
Manchester, you can.
That's
I've
crap.
seen my daughter has succeeded at Dartmouth by going through the Manchester school system. Her writing and
And
her-
there are people that go to Harvard from the school system and that, but
And they do
they're the
perfectly
anomalies
They do,
of it.
but the-
It's not
and the question-
anonymity.
but the-
You've got to work hard and you've got to take upper level classes. But go ahead, Jim.
Okay.
This is
but
not a
there-
world-class
but you can,
school system.
All of this, everything you say can be true, and yet, the fact of the matter is that that it depends on, it's all about the sort of social conditioning and the social circumstances and the economic circumstances of the kid going in the door and the parents, right? So
No, Jim,
that's
I
a
want you,
predictor, but
Jim,
it's
this,
not-
come on, I need a thing to
doesn't
cut off.
completely define.
No, we're talking about, you both say you can get, and you seem hypocritical, it just seems like, I can't use
well,
the
I know.
obscene
I want
phrase.
to agree with you.
Use it.
Let me just
Because
go.
I've seen schools. My friend went to Bronx Science High, where there was a Nobel Prize winner in the 1970s.
Right,
In
right.
New York City, you could get a world class.
Your friend won the Nobel
No,
Prize
idiot.
in high school?
No, dummy.
Damn.
No, dummy.
That
In
is
the Bronx
amazing.
Science High had a Nobel Prize.
I just
winner on
think
the
I
staff.
just think,
Okay.
and I don't mean to be sort of
Facetious?
No, not
I know you like
facetious
that
either.
word.
No,
Yeah.
but
I
I
don't
don't.
mean to be hurtful.
No,
to
yeah,
you,
I don't want to be.
but
I
dummy.
don't.
That's for after we leave.
We both have thick skin, figuratively and literally.
He's got a skin of a rhino.
To talk about excellent education in Manchester, it's not
Oh,
germane
Jesus,
to what we're
folks, can
talking
you
about.
believe
With the
this
system.
stuff?
This is like being in
It's
some
all
third world country, right?
da-da-da-do.
And in a third world
You look
country
at
where
life,
there's a street in the
and,
capital that is paved.
You go
and
into
there's
life,
street lighting,
and you try to
and
see things what
electricity
they
works
really
all
are.
day,
And then you
right?
have the
And the
sideshow
people who live
over
on
here.
the people who live on that
Here's the
street
sideshow.
who happen to be,
You've
the
got a
ruling-
wonderful
the people in
school
charge.
system.
And they'll say
it's
to you,
equivalent to
"We
the
have a
upper
wonderful
class
city."
suburbs of,
Wonderful
outside of
thing.
Chicago that my father lived in, which was like the sixth
You have
best in the world.
fiddle.
Yeah, but you're just a sideshow.
And a
We're talking about all this stuff. We're trying. Look at
I want
stuff
people
as
to
it
know.
really is.
And I want people to know that I did. Let
there
you
are
know,
world-class
as
teachers.
I was starting tonight, I did
Jeez,
let
you can
you
throw
know
a kid in the,
that I have to-
You
Rousseau.
can get a good education in Manchester if you take upper
We're
level
trying to
classes
get,
and you work hard.
folks. We're trying to keep him here until he gets another ticket.
Right. So the fact
We're punishing him.
the fact is we do not have a gifted and talented program. We
used
don't
to.
have.
Oh, I knew we had one before.
We used to have lots of things.
Can you
We
argue
used
about
to have
that
more
on your
than
own
one truancy
show,
officer.
Jim?
We used to have foreign languages in our middle
Okay,
schools.
let-
We used to have lots of things.
If I can just
All right,
go off
shut up.
subject, can I ask him a question about
No,
something, please?
no. We're talking about Colin Van Osten.
I thought we
gonna
finished
talk
with
to
that.
you.
We're talking about
I'm going
people.
to talk to your handlers at the VA and tell them that you've gone off your meds.
You don't know where my handlers are.
I know
and
you
you don't
don't.
know if they're at the VA either.
So they are.
You obviously haven't been educated about the New Hampshire primary.
Oh, I'm sure.
Tell me about.
I'm sure
can you
I'm
name
not.
one case
bottle
law
opener.
name a case law from New Hampshire campaign finance.
I couldn't.
Marbury
You want to
v.
know something that's
Madison.
interesting?
What?
But I just want to. There is none.
There is none.
Everything is done by Attorney General letters that go to the plaintiff, and they'll go to like the
So,
Did you say plankton?
party, and nobody gets to see them. They're not released.
so are
public.
you okay with Are you
Yeah,
okay with New Hampshire being the first? Do you think that's a good thing?
I think it is a good thing.
I don't
For who?
For
It's
New
not-
Hampshire and for the nation.
You do.
It's not for the nation.
I mean,
Who gives
there's
them Trump?
there's like as a dispassionate, like if you were to take a non-New Hampshire view, right? There's
There
sort of-
is no
there's-
reason
Give us
for
the
it.
Irish.
I think there's two ways
us
of
the
viewing
Irish
it. If you're,
Republican view.
well, I wouldn't be able to do that.
Are you Jippo
But-
Nolan
But
tonight?
I think there's two ways of looking at it, right? This is to me, if I were looking at it from outside, when the plus on the plus side, New Hampshire is a state that allows candidates who are not hugely well funded with huge campaigns to be able to do domestic or retail politics,
Yes.
where they can meet people and create a name for themselves.
And there's no other
and
state
they
that could actually
right.
happen.
So this is the positive
No,
side, right?
There's no other state
so,
but no, Jim, there are other states that
Rhode
could
Island,
happen.
maybe.
well, no, but
No, you have to have a regional
the
primary.
fact
That's
is,
what you're gonna get.
the fact is that so that makes sense, right? I understand that. That
Oh yeah,
means-
and that's why we have the primary, because that's what everybody thinks.
Right, now,
that there
on the
wasn't
other-
a consensus crafted over almost 50 years.
Right.
That has nothing to do
So
with
on
it.
the
That
other
was
side,
before even your buddy Colin was even born.
on the
Hey,
other
I
side,
remember Paul Newman
on-
came
on
to
the other-
Hunt
so-
Fest.
so I
That
underst-
was 50 years ago.
so I understand that. On the other side, it makes no sense at all
we
that
gave you
that
Donald
if you
Trump.
live, well, yeah, and
And
Pat
the,
Buchanan and many others, it makes no
Now,
sense.
Pat Buchanan did not come out of here.
Pat Buchanan
Trump didn't
won
become
the
president.
Pat Buchanan won
Trump
the
didn't
primary.
become president.
What are you talking
Trump did
about?
become. What do you mean?
Trump became president. Pat Buchanan.
No, he didn't, but he won the primary.
So what?
I'm just saying. So
The point is that we gave
the
Trump
point,
a
the
boost.
countervailing point is this: is that it makes no sense that a state with 1.5 million people in it.
No, 1.3.
1.1.
It's down to
1.1.
1.1. It's 1.3.
1.1.
Google it.
So
it's 1.3. We haven't grown in
So
I think it's
years.
1.1.
we've got the oldest
You get
population in
your
the states.
phone out.
So
It's
that
over there.
Well, there's no archives anymore.
so that
in
a
the
state
Union
with
leaders,
20,
you
30, or 40 million people in it, right? That state has less. If you happen to live in California, you have the misfortune when it comes to presidential elections.
737,
Oh,
Jim.
I gotta go.
Yeah, you
Oh,
do.
okay.
You,
Hang
you,
on,
you,
yeah.
you have the misfortune of you'll never meet on Elm
I'm
Street. You
sending,
can
to
meet
the
a president
police to
or a
get your
presidential
car.
candidate walking down Elm Street. You can walk down cities
So what?
50 times
Yeah.
the size of Manchester and live there your whole life. You never.
And
But
that's
what
the
you're advocating-
that's the
what he-
perversity
what you're
of it.
I'm not advocating.
for,
I
Jim,
said there's
is
two
if you,
things.
let's say California was the first in the nation primary.
Right.
You'd have to have
I'm not advocating for
tens
that.
of millions of dollars
Yes.
for advertising, and so only the rich,
Right.
and suppose it would be an oligarchy, right?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it'll be an oligarchy, but the point
Or
that is exactly
kleptocracy.
So
Oh, Jim. Okay, you gotta go
or
now. We're going to
combination.
trash.
So that's the
Colin
point.
and
So
That's
you're advocating for an oligarchy
No.
with billionaires can only run for office, and that the average.
Well, they
Joe-
all, they
What I
only,
see-
that's what we have now.
all I simply
Jim, are you
did
a
was
Democrat?
I was trying to help you out
Can I
here
ask you what
with
your-
trying to give you.
what's your
I'm an
political party?
independent.
I'm going to
Okay.
talk to Jason
so-
about getting a kill button, and then we'll just go.
I was
with,
only simply laying out the two ways
He's
of
for
viewing.
Colin Van Austin because he's the shiny thing, and he's been
until
he's
you
been
know,
you know whatted by
if
now.
you if
There's
you
a rumor that Colin
There's
Van
no-
Austin bought you a drink in the bar, and that's why you're supporting
There-
him.
yeah,
did.
there's
Never
no
did.
quid pro quo. There's no quid pro quo that you go to this thing and, well, he's going to give money to progressives that support rights. There's no quid pro quo
I've
that
heard-
you're going to vote for him.
I've
when he
heard a
gives
lot.
you
I've
money.
seen. You've talked about money, and then so
See,
so a guy,
here's the thing.
a wealthy guy with wealthy friends has gotten some money. Okay,
Here's
great.
the thing.
And
Oh yeah, who cares about campaign finance?
I
Because
do.
We're
I-
Democrat. No, you don't.
I do.
Because who cares? Because we're Democrats. What was it that Nat Hentos said? Free speech for me, but not for you.
What?
Yeah, and that's the thing.
So
But then
so
he
$250,000 is a lot of money, but when Ted
Oh,
Gatzis
it's-
runs,
Nobody-
and he gets
it's a
$500,000
neutral-
from
it's a
two
neutral
from two
offense,
funders.
Jim.
Didn't Joyce outspend him?
Shut up. You know, Ross.
That's
shut up.
spending. That's got nothing to do.
You're acting like an idiot. The point is, it's a neutral
I
office.
do have to go.
It's not even an office that is covered by laws, and he's saying he's going to support people to vote for him. And the one thing that is similar is Speaker of the House, but it has to deal with gifts because of conflict of interest. So you're telling me that me promising money,
I don't know.
and if you're a person like me, where you think that a bag man is the same thing, or using a PAC is the same thing as getting it from them,
Right.
it's explicit what you were promised. Money for support.
Who was promised? What someone was promised? I don't know.
Didn't you admit
and
that
the
Colin
one-
Van Austin bought you a drink?
No.
And the one-
you maliciously created that
If you
rumor.
would go, if the press of New Hampshire had any, if it actually did its work
Yeah.
and actually told you about the campaign finance law, it's shocking because there virtually is no campaign finance laws here. The Jeb Bradley tried to create, was it SB 120 or 140 to try to control PACs, and the Koch brothers says, to hell with this. Our constitutional rights say we don't have to do this. So you go to the AG and you get a letter, and it's kind of like anarchic. Who's going to get slapped and who's going to get
Archaic
slapped.
or anarchic?
Anarchy.
Anarchic.
Okay, I thought you were saying archaic.
You know,
like
it's
old.
just a
Anarchic.
coincidence that it was
Which,
a
you just
Democratic
need a couple
AG.
of more letters, but so the
Like aluminium.
yeah.
No,
aluminium.
Jim, you've already
No,
lost.
listen,
You've
no, listen.
already the
I'm
moral.
listening, no,
I love when Jim pontificates.
He's already ceded the moral
I'm not
ground.
When I'm in the school board and I see Jim come in, it makes my night.
The ground has already
Right.
crumbled
Wait a
behind
second.
his.
I don't understand
I'm
your
not going to say
brogue
it's
is so thick, but
extensive
like,
way,
you know,
but
I
you
just-
are,
I know it's-
solid.
You don't understand what I'm saying? You need me to slow down?
It's the brogue is just so thick, and I think they're on Gaelic.
You're not able to understand? That's
I don't
Jim,
think anybody
go
can
off and
understand.
get
So therefore, even though I've repeated it 1,000 times that we've got the least well-funded school system in the state
Oh.
and the least number of pupils.
But you can get a world-class.
That you do actually
You
understand.
can
that.
get a world-class education. We might as well cut all the funding.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it'll just come through osmosis. We'll teach them tarot
He
cards.
learned that on a bunch of stones out in the field.
But I
Folks,
The
has
great
he,
thinkers
has he
of
got the
Western
ticket
civilization.
yet? We've
when
got
you
the person out
respond
there.
when you respond that you can get a world class education, etc. in Manchester, I think
Empress.
that's not germane to the actual topic. The fact that some kids come out of Manchester doing very well. And I know you're.
I didn't want to
that is
do
one
the
of
show
many of my
tonight
friends. My
anyways.
kids have been successful.
John
going to Manchester
Hopwood?
pubs. So
Brought
the
it to
fact that
Manchester.
you
They were all
can,
pissed
the
that I
fact
didn't
that you
get to
can
Harvard.
doesn't relate at all to the system that we're overseeing, and the fact that it isn't properly funded, and that kids don't have resources.
I didn't find out.
The fact
I didnn't find out I had dyslexia until I was at Defense Language Institute
Right.
and reading Cyrillic, because that didn't exist in Manchester, New Hampshire, because things like that didn't exist.
There
here.
are special
'Cause we were
needs
high-
kids
We
in-
were behind the times.
Cyrillic? The Greek? Don't the Greeks use
Dummy,
the-
dyslexia. They didn't test you for dyslexia.
Oh.
Stuff like that.
But there are kids in Manchester.
But
you
let me-
know-
I'm
let me
sorry,
agree
I'm
to-
being
let me
hurtful
agree
again.
Does Manchester have problems? Does Manchester, is it
Let's
poorly
have a
funded?
vote
I agree.
on Ross's
yeah, I
beard.
know. Yeah, but you're in a position.
Right, we got to vote on
Colin Van Austen, we're talking about. He is a blue dog that's after, going to give money. It doesn't matter, does it?
I think.
Colin Van Austen is going to turn New Hampshire into a
Blue
third
dogs are
world,
nasty.
third world kleptocracy. Mark my words if he gets elected.
No, that
Why
he's
is,
just a tool.
how is that? Where do you get that from? Is that not just like? I mean, it's just like made up of whole cloth.
Were you in
like,
the intelli-
You're just making it up as you go
Were
along.
you in
right?
the intelligence community, Jim?
Pardon?
Were you in the intelligence
That's
community?
an oxymoron.
In the intelligence
it's not.
community, no.
Italian?
Do you know what criminology is?
Kremlinology,
Criminology
yes.
is?
All right, I've got a question for Jim.
I have something. I'll show you about criminology.
What do you think of Senator Patrick Moynihan saying
Oh, shut up.
that the Irish did not succeed in
Will you shut up
organized
about the
crime
Irish, for God's
because
sake?
of their propensity for drinking? It hurt
That's
their higher thinking
stupid.
processes.
Now,
Yeah.
What-
No,
that's
shut
stupid. I
up.
agree with John.
Patrick-
That's stupid.
that's stupid and shut.
So you
First
think
of all, they
Senator
didn't
Patrick
suc-
Moynihan
they
was-
didn't
his
succeed
comments
in-
were stupid? or he
Hey,
was-
French Canadian.
Those comments
Who-
were stupid.
He's a
He's
French Canadian with the
extremely
Italian.
intelligent,
Yeah.
well-read.
I've heard.
He also
I've
was a
heard,
drunk, so let's get up around
there's
that.
lots of intelligent people who say stupid things.
Like
I've
Ross
even been,
Terrio,
I've
for
even been
instance.
known to say some stupid
John
things myself.
Hopwood?
Hey,
Guys,
I love it.
I'm having a lot of fun, but
Whoa,
I have to
whoa,
go.
stay here. I'll buy
We're
you a
gonna-
drink.
No,
You wanna-
I've gotta
we're gonna
go.
run you
Where
out
do
of
we go?
town
What are you
now.
running for?
Nothing. Right now, nothing.
we're running you out of town,
Yes,
Jim.
thank you, John,
Why-
for the
why
time.
you gotta
I
go?
An
appreciate it.
apologist for
I promised my wife I'd be
kleptocracy.
home, and I'm going to. And I like to keep my promises to my wife, and I've got 16 minutes to be home.
Did you
I'm
promise
going
her a world-class education for your children?
No, I didn't, but I did everything I could to get
Did
one.
you?
And I'm sure it happened.
Did you ever discuss your philosophy on Senator Patrick Moynihan with her?
No, I've not discussed John Patrick Moynihan with her. But
It's not
Yeah,
John
I always
Patrick.
refer to him
It's
as
not
Patrick
John. That
Moynihan.
you're thinking of a screenwriter.
yeah, I've got to go. It's been fun.
All right.
We
can
do the Irish program. on
We
that.
can bring the camera in tighter now.
What's that, your show,
Jim's
67?
Jim.
7. Come on in.
It's a more intellectually heavy lifting type of show,
Is it?
right?
Sure it
only,
is.
only when you're there. See you there.
All right, bye, Jim.
Bye.
He's his part of the French from Canada are Celts. Yeah, they probably hit the bottle too, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Burgundy. What is it?
See you there.
Burgundy.
What is it? What's that wine that's made from grapes?
What wine is it made from
I
grapes?
mean, the alcohol that's made from wine, you distill
But
it.
did you see the apologist for Patrick? Not like he's got me Patrick von Osterhan.
Yeah.
It's such crap, you know. This is my party. This party, the New Hampshire Democratic Party, it's disgusting. It's controlled by somebody. It's just property. They just treat it as property. It's their property. You know, so Gardner shouldn't be in office for 42 years. What about Ray Buckley? How long's he been the head of the New Hampshire Democratic
Quite a while.
Party?
You think George Soros is behind this?
Jesus, come on. It's so stupid. We're going to have to... did you smoke some Garanja before you came here?
No, but...
You are a pharmacist. Did you
Yes,
hit
sir.
any of the... They have all these new strict things, right? They have to bring, like, some guy, like the meter maid in to check if everything's all right.
I'm not that
As
familiar with the
volunteers.
marijuana dispensaries.
Oh. You don't have any medical marijuana
No?
at your hospital?
No.
We won't mention the hospital.
No.
Yeah.
So you've calmed down. Jim had a
Well, I knew he was
Very
going to. I
exciting.
knew it was going to be this prefab stuff because it's easier to get along that way with an argument.
he
you know?
sounds like a very strong Van Austin supporter.
Yeah, because it's all about anti-Trump. It's like Molly Kelly, where they got her from, because Colin Van Austin didn't have the guts to run against Sununu because he was so popular. They haul her out. The better guy was the bald-headed guy, the frog from
Oh,
Bernard.
Marchand. from
Yeah, I voted
Portsmouth.
for him. For him.
We don't have
At
to
least
talk-
he would have given. It would have been about something. But you know what gets me about Molly Kelly? It's like, oh, I'm going to be the resistance against Trump, and she goes after Sununu about the Kavanaugh hearings. We have the rape here in Manchester, New Hampshire, record Title IX settlement, and why should she talk about something like that or about local issues? It's all crap that is all predicated on raising money nationally, and from what I understand, and one of the sources was Joe Lavasser and stuff, so who knows, that he gets 15% of everything that goes
Yes,
through the
I've
party.
heard that. I've heard that
I
from
would
other
like
people.
to, Ray
from
Buckley,
fundraising.
why don't you release your tax returns? Let's see what you make. The election's over now. As I told you, there's a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
Like the 2014 election, when things were Carol Shea Porter, when she went to get money with a close election. But we can talk about that another time. But I have a question for you, and you can think about this. What would Gordon Humphrey be doing endorsing Chris Pappas?
I don't know. Why didn't
Because
he go?
Gordon Humphrey, he owns a radio station. He owns the license of a radio station up in Concord. Paul Hodes appeared on it. Ray Buckley used to. Carol, all the people, Democrats. It's American Family Radio. Isn't that, remember Rich Girard, American Family Radio, which is the Southern Poverty Law Center, says that's an anti-gay hate group. But yet everybody's in it together.
Well, the Southern
right?
Poverty Law Center is a farce.
Give me a break.
It's a farce.
Yeah.
They said
No,
a
it's-
Muslim woman who was complaining about Islam.
Shut up.
This
This is my show. You get your own show, and you
All
can
right.
say all your gibberish that you want.
I own 51% share in the show. I can shut you down.
You haven't
like
paid.
that.
You haven't paid me off. You know what? Where was that $10,000 bill? Did it drop out?
Right there, it's in front of your face.
It's a little late.
If it was a snake, it would have bit
It's a
you.
little late
Can I see
to.
that?
It's a little late to pay me off. But
I just want to
I
look
didn't
at
know Eisenhower was on the $10,000 bill.
it. You didn't know that?
I thought it
Yeah,
was
I think you're
Samuel.
not good at
I
history.
thought it was Samuel Chase.
Didn't they stop because of the reforms, because of money laundering? They had to stop making.
Oh
anything
no,
about-
they stopped it because that song by Sonny and Cher back in 1969.
No, I think it was financial reform.
Well, you were using it for blotting acid.
No.
It was part of the
what's
crackdown
largest
on
bill
LSD.
now? What's the largest bill? Is it $100?
$100 bill.
Yeah, because of money laundering.
They used to
make
have
it
a
harder.
$1,000 Canadian bill, but that's gone now. For people. But who'd want it?
They needed $1,000 because that was worth about $10.
I think there's a €1,000 bill now, but I'm not sure. Depends on the country.
I'm sure there's a large Bitcoin.
Oh, what? I'm for campaign finance reform.
You
So
are?
what's $250,000 being thrown into an election that's supposed to be neutral, and there's nothing can
Why don't you
has anything to
challenge
do with
Colin to an MMA fight for charity,
What's MMA?
mixed martial arts?
No, we're gonna. I'm gonna ask Elizabeth Roth to take him on in the Jello wrestling for the. What did Jim steal my tie? The other tie?
I think he did.
That tie's a Lulu. Don't you
That's-
think? Did you see what it said?
No, what did it say?
Oh, jeez, where'd it go?
I think he stole it.
Oh my
I
God.
don't
Well, you
call
remember
him
what the
that.
other one said, don't you? Neither one that can be reported on this show.
The cannot speak its name.
I spent all day up going through this stuff, and I only got to the $211,000, and I was tweeting, and I realized in New Hampshire it doesn't matter. Nothing
Well,
matters.
you know what's making me sick is I'm reading these letters to the editor from all these young Democrats.
Oh,
who've been
here's the
elected,
thing.
And they're, Colin Van Austin's awesome, and Mr. Gardner needs to go.
I went up to Secretary of State's office to get information, and I did talk to Bill. He wouldn't come on the show. I said, hey, if I get Lou, no, he told me this. I've asked him so many times. He's actually watched my show occasionally, but he actually says I don't. The only show I've been on is Bob Backus. But I'm up there, and I'm looking at stuff, and they got books up there for the law, and I'm being flabbergasted at what I'm finding. And somebody calls up, somebody named Klein from 4. I guess it's
Nicole Klein. She's
state rep-elect.
Yes.
And it turns out, and suddenly, if you can't be a journalist without eavesdropping. She's arguing that Bill Gardner is suppressing the vote by not putting on the website information that felons, once they get out, can vote. Guess what? It's on the website. And then I guess Bill got dragged in it because she was saying, I don't like the language of that. That's voter suppression. It should be, it shouldn't just be the statute. It should tell. And I actually hear him say, I don't make, he doesn't issue. That's what the law is. He has to put the law in it. He's not there to interpret it like Colin Van Osten's going to, like that. Some kid that's here one day can get. Is it true that somebody that's here one day can vote?
Yes.
That's outrageous. I figured it was 3 months or 90 days. And that's right.
That's what the Democrats
and
want.
that is entirely a thing driven by putting money into people's pockets by bringing $60 million elections in here. I've seen the kids flipping on both sides between
Here's the thing.
Senator, Congress's office into the campaigns, and then they all become, a good lot of these kids become consultants and prey on poor schmucks.
Let me make a comment about the Democratic Party has a long history of shooting itself in the foot. And let me give you some examples.
Well, I'll let you talk, but
they Judge Bork, they borked him.
Oh, see, you go
just listen.
You don't know how to argue.
Just listen.
You're
give me a minute. Give me a minute.
Marine. I want you to drop and give me 20.
So they screw over Judge Bork, and then the Republicans, when they get in power, they screw over the Democrats within the judicial lobby.
Yeah, but they screwed over
and then the Senate goes nuclear under the Democrats, and then what do the Republicans do? And so you guys, this is what's going to happen.
It wasn't me. I wasn't in.
Well, the Democrats.
I wasn't in. I'm not in the congressional
I understand that. If Van Osten's elected, mark my words, when the Republicans take over, they're gonna put in some highly partisan hack Republican.
The primary's over. The primary should be over anyways. The thing is to let him have his 2 years and the 100th anniversary, and then it becomes an elected position. But the primary's over.
Well, it is elected, but it's elected by
but let it be elected by the people. That's what. But if Van Osten was actually, in my opinion, if he was ethical, he would have run for an office like state rep even, or senator, or executive council, and then propose that. Because, Bill Gardner had been elected, I guess, the state rep, and then he became it. Yeah. Because the Secretary of State's office, after the law, I guess it was 74, enacted because of the Nixon, with a bag man taking the cash right in, they had these, the reforms, without the neutrality. But here's the thing, I'm going to say it again. I'm a Democrat of the era of 74. I'm against Citizens, the Citizens United and that. The idea that a PAC is separate from a person, that's separate from some bag man bringing in a bag of cash. We all, except so-called progressives that want, reform, that's not true, that is the same. And then suddenly, and all these people, the hypocrisy is just stunning. And you're right, though. It's when I was at West High, started 73, 74, come back, we'd watch the Watergate hearings. And Nixon, $200,000 from ITT. That's over like $2 million now, delivered in the back, and get something done. So I watched that, and by the time I'm in senior year, I'm writing a Watergate paper using a source from the Brookings Institution, which is a liberal Democratic. I know right where it is now because I was in Washington. And it said, yes, the Democrats, they did similar things in Nixon, but Nixon went too far and he broke a consensus. And it was always, it's after the war, if you go too far this way, we will. And it destabilizes things. But this holier than thou stuff, this let's pretend that, it's all blue skies and everything. Oh, he gave such a nice speech. I brought in that bag, I have my father's picture in, he's in uniform. It's 1944. So he was, 18 years old,
Okay.
and in his yearbook, which of course he didn't graduate from West, it says actions speak louder than words. Actions speak louder than words. You know, the whole thing of my life, when I studied political science with Howard Zinn, oh, we have to get you onto one of the Howard Zinn shows, and I'm in the Defense Intelligence Agency, is figuring out what is really going on, what the words really mean. I mean, that's semiotics. There's all sorts of disciplines about it. And, you know, this idea, oh, he gave a nice speech. It's like, oh, yeah, let's turn off the light inside our head because we're right. Like Nat Hentoff said, free speech for me, but not you. You know? And I'm just saying, this is outrageous. I would like to see a racketeering lawsuit like they tried
against,
right in Florida, against the New Hampshire Democratic Party and the whole thing.
And your buddy Ray?
But it's not going to happen because we have no campaign laws.
What's your prediction on the Secretary of State race?
I don't know.
I think all the Republicans are, for the most part, going to go for Bill.
I mean, I don't know. I think that the Democrats are this reckless. You know, if you're going to position the Democratic Party and the Secretary of State's office as the resistance to Trump, thinking he's going to be gone, but his party's still going to be there, they're going to strip the Republicans of the voting rights, and it's over. You can have the primary anyway, because the New Hampshire and no law, this idea that just this New Hampshire law, oh, we got to be first, doesn't mean anything. Alaska was the first caucus. Nobody can give a damn.
So you think
about
the
it.
Republican Party at least?
Well, we got to
possibly
get going. If you can come back, I want to get you on a show when we talk with Howard.
Go down to
Zinn.
Margaritas. We'll talk some more.
No, you can't ply me with beer.
Yes,
you know?
I will.
Oh, Little Nell's back. But we're not supposed to talk about that.
So you're going to go to Margaritas?
I'm never having you and Jim on again.
Why not? I like Jim. He's a
You
very
hijacked the
intelligent,
show.
articulate person.
I'm going to use the duck on you now.
Okay.
Well, it's a bottle opener.
It
We'll
is.
go have a
I know.
beer.
It's a very...
Bye, folks. I don't know if I'm going to be back here. I feel like getting in a car, going to either Pebble Beach or L.A.,
or
and just laying naked on a beach.
Involuntary admission to
But I'll
the
probably
VA?
get arrested for doing that.
Involuntary admission to the VA?
Not because being, it's against the law to be on a nude beach or anything. It's just an affront against, against aesthetics. Bye, folks.
Okay.